AI Writers Connection contributing author Mira Gold, and we're going to have her take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Galen. And as she stated, my name is Marigold, and I want to welcome you to Unlocking Creativity. This is the Character and Plot Development with AI session, and it is presented by eGlobal Creative Publishing. Now, as your guide on this journey of storytelling, I'm really thrilled to be joined by my co host, Lynn Jordan, and by a special guest named Kate. Lynn, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Lynn Jordan, and I've been writing and also a professional IT person for more years than I want to think. So the AI is such a wonderful marriage of these two that I'm having fun with it, and I hope you will too.
How about you, Kate? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, so I'm Kate. I'm a long-time dabbler in all trades. I enjoy learning new things, and I've been writing for years and years, but perfection always gets in the way. You have your ideas and you keep constantly rewriting them, and AI have found has really helped clear away some of that decision fatigue and helped me actually continue writing. And yeah, it's been a great inspiration.
Oh, I love it as an organizational tool. Spot
Yeah.
on right there. So, today we're going to dive into the fascinating world of storytelling once again. We're going to explore those intricacies of creating multi-dimensional characters. And I want to state once again, your characters need to have multiple layers. They need to be multi-dimensional. And we need to have captivating plots when we are working with our stories. We want to be able to engage the reader and keep them at the edge of their seat and guessing on what's going to happen next. We want to entertain the reader. And the best way to do that is to build some well rounded characters and to develop a really solid plot structure. So, whether you're a budding writer or a seasoned storyteller, this class is designed to help spark that imagination and to introduce you to the exciting possibilities that AI brings to the creative process. Now, together today, we're going to unlock the secrets of building those compelling narratives, learn how to breathe life into our characters, and discover how AI can be a valuable ally in crafting your next great story. Let's embark on this adventure and unleash the power of storytelling. Our objectives today. We are really going to want to focus on understanding character and plot, as I stated prior. We want to make sure that we design our story in a way that enhances our storytelling skills. First, we want to aim to deepen the understanding of our character and that plot development. Those are the pillars of great story. And I can't express enough how important it is to understand your character inside and out. Not only do we need to know who our character is right now during the story in real time and present day, but we also need to know about our character's journey prior to the start of our story. What made our person who he or she is? What is that backstory? Was there something traumatic in childhood? Did the individual have to grow up really quick? Are they a reluctant hero? What do we need to unearth about our character? So, we're going to explore how AI can be a game changer when looking at creative writing. We're going to look at firsthand how we can use AI to assist in generating additional ideas and adding complexity to our narratives as well as how to build out our characters. Now, we are going to have some on hand experience with today's session. And we actually have Kate, who we introduced earlier as our guest speaker. She is going to take the reins in a little bit with Novel Crafter to show us some of the ins and outs of Novel Crafter and how you can use some of the tools in Novel Crafter, like Tinker and the Codex, two great functions within the Novel Crafter tool. Let's talk a little bit about character complexity. Characters are like onions, they have multiple layers and they have different sides to their personality, which makes them feel more real. Now, let's talk about flaws and strengths. No one is perfect, right? Well, neither should our characters be. We want to give them flaws like maybe they're forgetful or Maybe they have to knock on the door 3 times before they can enter. Maybe there is some type of code that they follow religiously. We want to look at their strengths, like maybe the character is super brave. By having those flaws, their strengths, and their weaknesses, that makes the character more relatable. Now, think about Harry Potter. He's brave, but he also makes mistakes, and this makes him highly relatable. Again, think about who your character is at the core, backstory. I can't talk about backstory enough. Now, when I talk about backstory, I don't want to know that Evelyn went to the store at 10 o'clock and then she saw Cheryl and they started chit chatting and they got all the gossip. And I don't want little side stories that don't build my character or that do not move the plot forward. I want to know that nitty gritty, just earth shattering information about my character. Maybe my character entered the foster system because maybe somebody broke in and killed both of his or her parents, and this person witnessed it and put that individual in jail. Maybe at the start of the story, we don't know this, and we don't realize why this character is afraid of the dark. It's not until we peel back some of those onions to uncover more about the character. What at the base has made the character who he or she is today? And that's one of the things that you can do by fleshing out your character's backstory. Now, does that mean that when you're writing your book, you just dump that all in there just as a quick dump? No, it needs to unravel one thread at a time, one onion skin at a time. You don't want to just dump information all at once. You want it to flow naturally. Think of it as Hansel and Gretel and how they're dropping those breadcrumbs through the forest so they can find their way back. You, as an author, are dropping those breadcrumbs of information about your story, about your characters, and about the plot. And you're doing that so that you are keeping your reader's interest. So, again, backstory, pivotal. We also want to look at shaping our characters. Just like how our experiences make us who we are, our characters' past experiences shape them. Maybe your character is scared of spiders because they got stuck in a web as a child. Maybe they went spelunking and fell through a hole and felt bugs crawling all over them. Maybe that's why the character is claustrophobic. There needs to be something that actually grips that character and makes him or her who he or she is. Also, the other thing that you need to think about in your story is who your character is. Has there been any change by the time you hit chapter 3, chapter 4, or if you're in a serialized body, how much has your character changed from episode 1 to maybe episode 50? We need to keep track of the change and growth in a story. Characters learn and grow just like we do. Maybe they learn to be braver or to trust others more. I don't know. It is your story, so you have to decide what kind of growth your character has. On Charlotte's Web, where Wilbur the pig changes from being really scared to being brave and wise thanks to his friendship with Charlotte, the spider. So that is an example of showing how a character can change. Maybe one of your side characters is like Scar from Lion King. That is a flat character. He really never grows. He is just who he is at the beginning of the story, and he's still that same character at the end. So keep in mind, your primary characters need to be well rounded and they're going to have growth. Creating memorable characters. How can we make sure that our characters stand out? How many times have you heard people say, my characters sound the same? How can I make sure that my characters sound different or that their mannerisms are different? Or maybe their speech all sounds too similar. And if you could take 5 characters in a scene and if you can give them all the same name and they all sound the same, then you know that you have not made memorable characters. Memorable characters are the ones we think about even after the story ends. They have those unique traits that make them stand out, like being really funny or super smart, or maybe they're really good at martial arts, or they have visions, or they're a really good mentor. These are qualities that we want to look at and build upon. We want each of our characters to be different. Standing out. To make a character stand out, think of something special about them. Maybe they have a magical hat, like in Harry Potter, or maybe they can talk to animals, like in Dr. Dolittle. I don't know. It's your story. Decide what and who your character is and what path that character is taking. Let's talk about some plot development. When we talk about plot development, we want to look at a path through maybe a forest. So when you start looking at your plot development, think of yourself as slowly entering into the forest. It's really dense, there's a lot of information there. You're trying to find your way from one end of the forest to the other, but you need to chart a path that you're going to follow. And that path enables you to develop your story. You want to make sure that each scene that you have or each episode that you have inside of your story does one of two things. It needs to either develop or build your character, or it needs to develop or move the story forward through plot. I can't stress enough. Your characters and your plot development are huge when you are writing a story. You want to make sure that you're giving both of those aspects of your story equal time because you don't want one area to be heavier than the other. Think of your key elements of a good story. Think of your plot as those enticing moments, like maybe finding the secret door to the secret garden. Maybe it's a big challenge like defeating a dragon, or maybe it's a satisfying end to finding that treasure after you have been following a map halfway around the world and you finally find that X that marks the spot. Our key elements of our plot development, it's the path that you follow and how you intensify each step of the way, and you want to build that momentum and tension. A well developed plot keeps us excited about guessing what will happen next. And it's like a game where each step is more exciting than the last. So when we read a book, we don't read it to basically read about the same life that we have. We want an adventure. We want something that takes us out of the mundane, ordinary life that we're living today, or maybe even to help with the stress or anxiety, or to close the door on work and be able to reset the brain. We want to be entertained as a reader. So, as a writer, you want to make sure that you're giving that to your audience. So, again, plot development, your key elements of your story, and a well developed plot. That eases us right into building suspense and tension. I don't care if you are writing a simplistic romance or if you are writing a nail biting thriller. You still need to build suspense, you need to build tension, you need to show some chemistry in that romance between the two characters, the protagonist and the love interest. If it is a nail biting thriller, you need to make sure that your characters are having that back and forth pull of cat and mouse and that you are building that tension. But always keep in mind that when you have your reader on that roller coaster of building suspense and tension, that you need to think about how tense it can be to constantly build that tension up, up, and up. At some point, you need to give it a little bit of a break. If they're right in the middle of physical conflict that is causing that suspense and tension to build, maybe having something internal happening helps to break it, but not completely break that tension. But it puts the mind in a different set, and then you can come back to the external tension. You do that because you want your reader to be on a roller coaster ride. So when they are going up the roller coaster, you are building the tension of that physical angst. When they are coming down that roller coaster, it's an internal conflict. They're doubting where they are at now in their life. Can the hero really be the hero? Does the hero believe in his or herself? So again, think of your story when you're building suspense as a roller coaster ride. Now, in building tension, we know that we can make a story more exciting by adding some mystery, like a strange map, maybe dangers like a lurking monster, or challenges like a riddle to solve before they can get to the next level. Or maybe there's a cipher that they have to open in order to get the clue. A popular example could be in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The suspense builds as the children discover Narnia and face the White Witch. We keep reading to see if they're going to save Narnia. And again, it's because the author has kept us at the edge of our seat because the author created some suspense. The author built tension. And that is what we want to do as well in our body. The role of conflict in plot. Now, the types of conflicts are those little challenges. So you have one main plot, and all of these little side conflicts feed it. So you want to think about all the things that could happen within your main plot. And what are some of the challenges, the conflicts that your characters could face? Is it a battle? Is it a disagreement? Is there an inner struggle? You want to make sure that you're adding enough conflict into your story so that you have enough twists, turns, and reversals. Think about your story. When you have that A, B, C, and D story, how many little conflicts do you have that are feeding into your plot? And one of the things that I like to do is I like to number mine out on a piece of paper. And I will say maybe within the first 3 chapters, I want to have 2 different conflicts that open up. And they're going parallel, but they haven't merged yet. And they might merge closer to the middle of the book, but I want to make sure that I'm introducing these conflicts. Now, every time you enter a conflict, make sure that you're keeping an eye on it because you don't want that to become a loose thread. You have to tie those conflicts up. Driving the plot, your conflicts are like obstacles in a race. So you want to make sure that your character's journey is challenging and exciting. Because if your character gets everything that he or she wants dropped right in their lap, where's the adventure in that? You want it to have those dire consequences. If there's an easy way out, then there is no story. You want to make sure that there is enough conflict that your characters are being dragged through hell and back again. And again, think about your story, your character, and how you want to move that body forward. A great way that I like to bounce ideas is I like to use AI assistants. I like to pull up a computer. I like to go into Tinker and Novel Crafter or in Chat GPT-4. I like to banter with the AI and see what additional conflicts I can add. Creating plot twists. These plot twists are really important. Just like I was telling you, your conflicts and your obstacles are important. You need to have some twists. A plot twist is like a surprise at a game that changes everything. Or think of it as a haiku. In a haiku, you have the first 2 lines might take you down one path, but then when that third line of your haiku hits, it completely twists things around and takes you in a new direction. So those plot twists, those are the areas that you want to really focus on. Your plot twist, like I said, it's a surprise. It's something that your reader has not anticipated. How many times have you read a book or watched a movie and you're like, oh my gosh, I know what happens next. And then you're right and then you're disappointed. That's where your plot twists come into mind. You want to make sure that there are plot twists in there that have some really good twists, turns, and reversals, things that the reader might not think of, things that you have planted with those breadcrumbs all along, and then all of a sudden it just blows up. And then it leaves your reader thinking, wow, I didn't expect that. You need some of that in your story. Now, Impact on story. These twists, as I said, keep us guessing and make us want to read more to find out what happens. Think of it as a puzzle that suddenly changes. Talking about the climax and the resolution of your story. Now, don't rush the climax. Do not rush the resolution. We know that we need both of those elements, but do not rush them. You have, up to this point, taken enough time to ensure that you have fed your story. You have made sure that you are building that tension. So you don't want to get to the climax and then just let it fizzle out. You want to make sure that you are seeing your story all the way through. The climax is the most exciting part of your story. It's like the final match in a tournament. Everything the characters have done up to this point leads to this moment. So you want to make sure that it is a grand finale. Bring out the fireworks. Make sure that there is no question in the reader's eyes that this is the conflict that has hit that pinnacle moment, that climatic moment. And then after that happens, we need a resolution. And sometimes a resolution can be that there is truly no happy resolution, or if it's a love story, it can have a happy for now or happy ever after ending. So again, after the climax, the story starts to calm down. We find out how everything gets resolved, like solving that last piece of the puzzle. The importance of setting in a story. Now, why am I talking about setting now instead of when we first started talking about story? Because I want to point out that if you are writing and you come to a new episode, you need to orient your reader. Your reader needs to know, because you know what? In the last episode or chapter, they might have been on a cliff and they're looking down, and maybe there are dinosaurs chopping at the bit, but we don't know what happened to our characters. We have left our readers right there on the cliff with our characters, wondering what happened to them. So when that next episode starts, if it doesn't start on that cliff and it's with a completely different ensemble cast of characters within the book, then you better orient your reader. Let the reader know where they are, but then at some point, a future episode had better go back to that cliff and make sure that it is showing the reader what happens to those individuals on the cliff. We need to make sure, again, that the setting in the story is clear. It is clear who is there in the scene, and we need to know how the setting impacts the plot. One of the things that you can do with AI is you can look at a couple of different scenarios, and you can ask AI, hey, if I have my people on the cliff and there are dinosaurs coming, what are some of the options that I can take? Maybe there's a body of water down at the bottom. Maybe somebody has a parachute and they can parachute down safely. Again, it's your story. You have to decide where you're going to take it, but make sure that you're orienting your readers. Now, the setting can change a lot in a story. Imagine an old mystery in, say, a haunted house versus a sunny beach. The setting helps to create the mood and can make challenges for the characters. So we want to make sure that we're exploring all aspects of the setting. Now, bringing your characters and plot together. When you're integrating characters with the plot, you want to make sure that, just like pieces in a puzzle, that our characters and plot fit together. The characters' actions move plot forward, and the plot shapes the characters. I can't say that enough. The characters' actions move the plot, and the plot helps to shape the characters. Now, your characters shaping the story. Think about how a brave character might face a dragon differently than a scared one. Our characters' choices make the story unique. For example, in The Wizard of Oz, Dorothy's bravery and kindness help her make friends and to face challenges, which moves the story along and makes it exciting. Again, you want to make sure that your characters are well-rounded, relatable, and that you are bringing forward what their strengths, their weaknesses, their flaws are, and that they have a clear path that they are following. The art of story endings. Your ending is really important, and I can't stress that enough. A good ending is like the perfect last bite of your favorite dessert. and you know that you're anticipating that bite of that dessert, and it should feel just right, and it should leave you happy. Now, me, I like lemon meringue pie, and man, I can just imagine the taste of that lemon meringue with that nice lemon center. When I'm watching a movie, I want that satisfying last bite of that ending. I want to come away from that story feeling like I'm full now. I want to feel that I have come from the beginning to the end with those characters, and that story has accomplished something, that my character has accomplished something, or the character that I've been watching. Now, keep in mind, endings, some can have happy endings, some can have a happy for now ending, some can be sad, and some can actually have an open ending and leave you wondering. You have to decide what kind of ending you want to have, and also look at the platform that you're writing for. I want to talk about our live demonstration today. I am excited to actually introduce this part of the session. So please help me welcome Kate, an AI enthusiast. She's a talented writer, and she is a respected moderator for the novel crafter community. Now, her experience and passion for AI and creative writing makes her an invaluable guest in our discussion. As she stated earlier today, she has been writing for a while. She often found that trying to perfect something on the first go stifled the process for her. But in using AI as her organizational tool, it has helped her to move forward. And she's enjoying writing, and she loves mirroring the two together. Kate's involvement in the novel crafter community, as I stated, gives her a unique perspective on the intersection of storytelling and technology. Now, she's here to share her insights and her experiences, demonstrating how AI can be a dynamic tool in the creative process. Now, we are going to witness a live AI demonstration led by Kate, and it's going to focus on character and some plot development. If you have questions, be sure to put those in chat, or you can unmute and ask. Again, we want this to be interactive. Kate is more than happy to take questions when she is walking through her novel crafter demonstration. Kate, I'm going to turn this over to you, so give me just a moment to go ahead and get out of my screen, and I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay, so I will first preface that I can sometimes talk very fast. So if I start speeding up, feel free to tell me to slow down and take a breath. I want you all to be able to hear what I'm doing. So this is the Novel Crafter interface when you first sign in, if you've already got projects. So I'm going to work or show you some examples through one of the short stories that I've been doing in the Novel Crafter live streams. It's a horror kind of short story series based on Little Red Riding Hood. So when you have characters, you want them to, like, I'm sure we've all done at some point, those 50,000 question character sheets. And you go through and you determine every little thing from their favorite dinner to where they want to go on holiday. And that's a lot of information. And it's a lot of information for us to keep a hold of. And even more, the more you feed into the AI, the harder it is for it to retain the stuff that's actually needed. So whether you're writing through ChatGPT or pseudo-write or on Novel Crafter, you want to make sure that the information you're providing the AI is actually what it needs to help you write the scenes. So I'm going to start with the focus of this short story. I've got a very vague bio kind of description at the moment, saying that Little Red is a young girl from Ravensbrook, talks about her family a little bit and her personality. However, this is a very kind of, it doesn't give the AI that much to go about. So what I'm going to do is copy this and take it into chats. I'm going to start. So actually, I will go on here. So with the chat function, think of this as the equivalent of ChatGPT, except you can select different AI models and choose your own prompts. So I'm just going to go with the general purpose prompt here. It essentially just has the AI kind of primed for helping with writing. And I'm going to go with GPT Turbo. So I think that's probably one of the AIs everyone's most familiar with.
And in Novel Crafter, it's called Tinker, correct?
Yes, so they've in the latest update, they've changed it from Tinker to calling it just chat for kind of ease of like user interface. But yes, until yesterday, I think it was called Tinker, and it's going to be under an umbrella of related chat functions. There's going to be some others added in the coming months.
Nice.
So yeah, with my I'm going to put here is the character profile. Actually, a thing about Tinker or chat as it is now, you can type in a character's name or a codex entry, and the AI will pull up that character. So I'm going to say, look, the character of Red. And so you can see at the bottom that's been highlighted because I have Red as like an alias or a nickname for the character. So it means that whenever that is mentioned, it knows the character that I'm talking about. So I'm going to say, look at the character of Red. When she is 10, she becomes a shifter / wolf hybrid due to a wolf bite and lives in the forest with the wolves. Then we'll be like, please give. And then again, like in some previous sessions, we've seen that by asking the AI to expand and give multiple options, it helps you as the kind of the human writer be able to put together the things you feel work best for your story. So please give 5 different ways she might have developed in respect her personality and how she acts. So I have a few ideas of what I already want, but I'm curious to see what the AI is going to suggest.
Okay, one of the questions in the chat, is there a prompt library in Novel Crafter, or is there something that we can set up ourselves?
So we can set up, so it's a bit of both. So there are some system prompts in all the different AI interfaces. So whether that's in the writing, planning, chat, that are there as a guidance. However, then you can go and edit any of those, change them about, make new ones. And in the works is a kind of prompt hub where everyone can share the prompts that they use and why they use them so that people can then collaborate and use each other's. On the Discord as well, there is like a sub thread where people share their prompts and stuff, and if they need help writing them. But there's a mix of both. So if you don't want to have to fuss about it, there is an option for that. And if you want to micromanage, there is also an option for that. I'm very much the micromanager, so I have a lot of prompts I've tinkered to work for my prose.
Tell me a little bit about how it is that why Red's name is actually highlighted in red, and how did you get the codex to do that for you?
Okay, so whenever you make a codex entry, the character name is automatically highlighted and underlined. Because it's little red, I chose to select her and give her a color. However, the Tinker chat, the plan, or the right, anywhere where you see the character's name, you will see it's highlighted, underlined. So like the grandmother there, and if you click on it, it will come up with the codex entry. And likewise, you can have the different aliases that come up to also be when this is mentioned. You can see the codex entry. And if you have any of these within your prompt, like when you do your writing, you'll put in beats, or for the prompts for chat, you can type in the character and the AI knows to pull up all the details that are within the description to then inform the character or inform its response. If you've got extra information and you don't want the AI to take it all in, you can pop it into the notes section, and that's the human storage.
Can you scroll down your codex? I know that right now we're looking at the character list and there are 14
Oh, yeah.
entries there, but in all there's 20
Yeah,
so
so
that they can see.
yeah, so you can put in locations, there's other, but you can also put in if you've got objects or items. So if you had a cast of characters going to find a relic, you could put that in there. You could put lore for your magic system and other things like that. And you can also quick create codex entries for subplots as a style guide. If you so, for example, if you didn't want to play around with your prompts, you could put your style guide into your codex and have it set as on references, a global reference. So always include the entry in the AI context. And that means that the AI kind of every time you run a prompt, it always takes that into consideration. So you could define what your prose style is through that rather than through the kind of background prompting. So it allows you a bit more customizability if you don't want to accidentally mess something up in the user interface.
Nice. So that really helps with consistency across the board then.
Exactly. So you can keep your genre there, and it reminds me a little bit of in pseudo write they have the genre and the writing style. Is it? I think
Yes.
yes. It's like a similar vibe to that.
Now, what I like about that is that you can actually choose to turn it on or turn it off per
Yeah.
character or per location or any of the other sections. So I like that functionality because it's so flexible. Thank you for showing that.
That's all
Um,
right. It's great because it means you can have all your information there, and you never have to move it around. You can just mention the character if you want them to be there. And you can also do nested entries. So, for example, I have here the Wild Wind pack, and that is you can then have that. So, say I could then add entries. So, I could say the Alpha Wolf. So, all of these different wolves that are all in brown and little red are all part of this. So, whenever the pack gets mentioned as a term, the AI then knows all the members. So if they were all going somewhere, I wouldn't have to then specify that every single member is traveling. So
yeah,
it gives you a bit of a shorthand.
that's pretty nifty.
So yeah, so it's nice, and you can kind of again you can very easily customize it. And if they're only together for one scene, but then not after, you can always just remove them the next time you're writing with it. So it gives you a lot of options.
So I had missed Laura's question earlier, and it says Codex is only for characters, not settings. But I think we answered that question
Yeah.
to let her know that you can put whatever kind of entry you need in there, and with the other, you can specify what kind of entry it is.
Yeah, for sure. You can put anything in there, and the kind of categories are written to be as a guide, and there are some kind of differentials so you can tag them. For example, there's some presets for location that have different locations, but you could always use anything for it's more as a category rather than it affects the AI. So yeah, you can put in lore, you can be very flexible with what you put in there or objects and everything. So it is what you want to make with it.
Now, is there a word count cap on each individual entry or for the codex as a whole for all entries?
I don't believe there is. I've never come across the word cap if there is one. I think it all depends on because this is a bring your own key model, you can put as much information as you want in, but it's be aware that the AI then takes into account all of the tokens that you've inputted. So if there's information that isn't relevant to what you're doing, it works better to put it somewhere else for while you're using the entries. But you could do 1,000-word character profile if you really wanted to. Like there's no kind of limit to how much you can fit in. I tend to do around a 200-word kind of extract for main characters and then maybe 100 words for supporting characters. Because I find with that, you can get all the information that you really need for writing the character. And after your first few chapters, you come to realize that the AI pulls up on descriptions a lot. And so you're like, okay, I'm going to delete the physical description here because the AI has helped shove it down our throats. And so we know they have piercing blue eyes.
That's oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't get away from those. There's a
No,
question
no.
in the chat about a screenwriting software called Casualty. I'm probably saying that wrong. That seems to be fairly familiar to this. Is that true, or are you familiar with the software? I'm not.
I have
So.
I've never heard of it before, so I'd have to get back to you on that. But I know there are a lot of softwares coming up now. I think now we've got GPT-4 and Claude. Like it's becoming more feasible for people to make software. But I really like Novel Crafter because it's been designed by an author to first of all be just a writing software, so you don't need to have AI to use this. You can do all your writing and planning in the different kind of sections, and then if you want to use AI, you can. But it's not an essential component if you just want to have an aesthetic place to write.
Nice. So in
Um,
your chat,
yes.
so you have the different listings there?
Yeah, so it seems so I asked for how she might develop an act in the woods. So let's have a quick look. So deepened connection with nature, enhanced mistrust of civilization. Yeah, to be fair, all of these, I'd intended it to be very 5 different journeys she could have taken. But to be fair, all of these sound like a very reasonable combined together. So I'm going to ask it, given this, can you write for me a bio for Little Red, combining the codex entry and how she has grown up. Okay, so that's interesting. It's pulled from the codex that Red's life was altered when she was bit by Sharptooth. Was that in? Okay, so that wasn't in her codex entry, but it is in the story. It's already been noted in the story. So it's pulled either from one of the other. So Sharptooth has. Then again, it doesn't even say that she bit Red. So I think it has pulled that from the story. So that's interesting. I always find like when it's taken little bits of from areas that you don't realize it's making the connections. It's okay. No, it is a conversation partner. So this is, you can see at the bottom, it's 425 words, which is too much for what I would want. For example, the bottom paragraph wouldn't be necessary at all for her codex. So I'm going to say, please summarize or please condense this bio to remove unnecessary details, but keep to the spirit of the bio. Okay. So yes, this seems to have. So yeah, 184 words. It's more than halved what we had, and
So tell us about
yeah.
saving to Snippet.
So saving to Snippet is like almost imagine it as a copy paste without having to go and actually do it. So if you press save to Snippet, you can see it's come up here in my snippet section. It's almost like a notes section, so like Google Keep or just like post-it notes equivalent. So you can put any information that you're brainstorming and you want to keep for later, and it'll just save it in its own little bit. You can title it, little right codex. You can pin them by favoriting so that they'll stay at the top, and you can delete them. And it's a good way of keeping things. And also you can pin these to the side. So say if you had this and you wanted to start writing, but you wanted to keep your character bio there, or you wanted to keep a fable or anything that you had, or even if you had 2 versions of a chapter and you wanted to kit bash different versions together, you could put one in a codex snippet, in the snippet, so you can have one in your write interface. and keep it that way. So it's very good for if you're like brainstorming plot and there's some good ideas, but you want to keep chatting and you don't want to have to keep moving to or fro everything.
So now your snippet is actually siloed, correct? From
Yes.
your codex. Perfect.
So I'm going to now at the top. Okay, so I'm going to actually copy that and put it into Red's codex. And then I'm going to try out something that I've not actually played with. However, I was talking to the developer today when I was, oh, what should I show off? And she'd been working on, hold on, chat. So it's been almost a chat with your character kind of interface. So it's, please assist me in fleshing out the character in my story. You are, and then you put your name. So you are Red. You will take on her persona so I can refine her personality, act and respond as her. So when you press enter on the chat, it just makes new lines. So you always have to control enter, but I'm still forgetting to do that. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, there is sass already. Okay, so what would any of you like to, in quotation marks, ask Red to see how she responds to, from just this one codex entry, how the character or like the AI can take on the persona? Does anyone have any suggestions?
I'm going to go ahead and look in the chat. Nothing as of yet.
Don't see anything in the chat.
Do any of you have any questions then?
So I like. So what if you were to do a little bit of a twist?
Okay.
Now, I see that. What could you twist without changing your story completely about her?
Okay. So in the story, she's become this feral member of the pack, and she acts in it as a, I guess, like a guardian of the woods, but in a horror way. So she's like differentiated herself from humanity, and she uses the innate magics of the forest to protect it. And it gets a bit dark. Like it's a more, she is to the villagers' perspective, she's become the villain in a way. So how could I twist
So
that?
somebody just
Yeah.
asked,
Oh,
Red, can you talk more day to day? And I'm also wanting to know what other senses can Red incorporate into her maybe future prose? So if she's withdrawn, what other senses have become heightened? And how does that impact her world building? Ah, so there's a question that says, what is your day to day life like? So there's a direct question for
oh,
Red.
okay. Okay. I will copy and pop that into the snippet, the question I was working on. I'll pin them as well. Just what was the other question? The first one, the
What is your, actually, it was revised. It's what is your day to day life like, Red?
and were there any other questions or was it just those two?
What do you do for fun?
What do you do for Okay, then so let's start with what is your day-to-day life? That's used palpable already.
And I think there was a question that was, which of the two worlds do you prefer? I think that might have been for Red. Does she prefer
Oh,
her?
okay, yeah. Okay, this is interesting. I guess everyone's reading with me, so I won't read aloud, but
Oh, wow. So her afternoons are usually reserved for herbs and healing arts.
yeah, so it's taking that because she is so in this particular short story, she it's like the first instance of her kind of acting in defense of the forest. And she goes to her gran and is like, how can I stop these miners from mining through the forest? And she gets these kind of rituals to use the blood of man to awaken the forest and defend itself. So it's interesting that she's got this hedge witch vibes already.
Yeah. And I do the fact that she's perched on a crest. So that's interesting because of, I guess, the way that her character has been changing or evolving. So that's cool.
Yeah, it's like almost like a Tarzan like kind of image I'm getting, like how she sits and
Yeah. And she does her patrols. Nice.
yeah. And it's like she's an integrated member of the pack.
Okay.
So, was
Look
it
at the
a
picture
I'll
here.
follow this up with a, do you prefer your, life or, the life you left behind? I feel she's a
Oh,
little bit too eloquent for someone that's not spoken human for a while. It's still fine. That would be something that I would change in the codex maybe, which I might
make
do
it
now. Yeah,
make it a
and
little
see
bit
how it
more raw. A little bit
yeah,
more raw
like
and explicit. Okay.
yeah, because I feel like she's using a lot of big words, and given that she was 10 when she, like, ran away, and she wasn't, like she was from a small medieval village, so she wasn't educated.
So I love your idea of interviewing your character to get to know the character. And this is a great way to figure out maybe some of the storylines that you like. And even if you ask, maybe Red, what is your worst childhood memory or anything of that nature? And Red answers, and maybe you don't like the direction it's gone, you can always redirect. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah, for
pretty
sure.
cool. Yeah.
So, yeah, and like this, like how okay, this isn't sounding how I feel she would sound. So okay, let's try and find a way to tweak the codex entry so that it does give that.
So one of the viewers stated, it would be really cool if one could flesh out such a character and export or assign it to a bot and maybe on, say, your book website that, or even you can have multiple characters set up this way.
That would be
And
so cool.
yeah, readers could have discussions with the characters. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, because I know there are like fine-tuned models. So you can do, so for example, like ChatGPT offers an interface, and there are some other open source models that are doing it that allow you to put in data to prime the AI. So I've done it a few times with prose writing, giving a Kate written piece of writing, 300 words or whatever, of something I've written. Then I've gotten GPT to rewrite it into its style. And then I've made a fine-tuned model that takes GPT written work and makes it sound like how I would have originally written it, to try and, if I'm writing with AI, it can shift things to be more into my voice. So I don't see why you couldn't do a similar question and answer kind of thing and feed in your characters to a model, or even do something like this. Like I'm sure there must be a way, like some clever coder who knows more about this stuff.
You might even be able to build something like that inside of, say, ChatGPT's,
Yeah,
For's
the GPTs,
GPTs,
yeah.
or even inside of, say, pseudo-write. You could go into pseudo-write and do it as a plugin. Or in Novel Crafter, I wonder if you could create a prompt that would allow the writer to do this back and forth. But again, that's not on a website, but on a website, that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, be finding a way of connecting, that would be the once you had that, you could definitely, if people had, because you can share GPTs, I guess if people had those, you could take that and share the links, and then people could click on them and then
That's
chat with the
true.
character. So you could do it like that as a workaround, but people would need to sign up with GPT. However, like, I'm sure there are, 'cause you have chat bots and stuff with like programs. So I bet at some point someone will come up with a way of connecting your GPT to a website so you can just interact directly with it without going through the chat interface. Okay, so now I've added that change. So the change I added was about she's lived in the wilderness for over a decade. Her grasp on language is lessened. She's direct stubborn, has the formal education of a 10-year-old. She lives in medieval times. So I'm hoping that might inform when I ask the next question of what do you do for fun and see if her language changes at all. Again, this is like a playing by ear thing, but I love doing it.
So, what about her interaction with animals? Has she learned to read their body language?
Oh, then again, she's showing what her fun is. She's talking with her interactions with the pack.
Now, you could go so far as to ask, what is your favorite food? You could ask, what is your worst childhood memory? You could go on
Oh,
and on
yeah.
with this, and things that you don't necessarily like that maybe the AI spits out, you can always redirect and tell it to do something different. So, this is a great way to get to know your character and find out
Yeah.
what her strengths and weaknesses are. You could even ask, what are
Just what
some
she
of your
doesn't do.
strengths? Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Oh,
is your core belief?
let's see what she says for that after we've seen. So,
Now, one of the things that I like about fleshing out your characters, like what Kate is doing here, is that it can spark some other ideas when it comes to those little conflicts that you use to build your plot. With each one of these sections that she's asking these questions and she's going back and forth and having this conversation. Well, we now know that she's been removed since she was a very young child and she doesn't maybe communicate. So that might be an area where there might be some conflict because she may not understand something that somebody says, and that could create a conflict. Maybe her core belief has changed, and that could create a conflict. And all of these little conflicts could help to build and move your plot forward. And that's why I'm saying think about your main plot and then build out your character and see how your character can feed your plot and your plot can feed your character.
yeah, for certain. I could then actually through doing this, it's made me think. Okay, so when she initially goes and tries to confront the miners to tell them to leave, she's not going to necessarily have the language to communicate what she wants. And so that's going to cause conflict because she will be frustrated at herself, but also with them, and they won't actually know what she's wanting. And it'll cause a lot of kind of, yeah, confusion and discord within the interaction. And so,
So you have a question.
Mhm.
Can you keep snippets open no matter what page you're on within Novel Crafter?
Yes, so that's so you can pin them to the sidebar. So you can move, make them shorter, bigger, and it just keeps that one snippet or codex entry. So if I want to do it with the codex entry, I can do it as well with that, or with a chat. So this is if I go off the chat interface, open up the chat. I could have that pinned. So while I'm doing plotting, I could say if I close my codex because I wanted some more space, I could have the chat, continue chatting with Red, and then add things into the plot as I was doing it.
So we have another question,
Uh-huh.
and it says, "Is this on?" No- so this is on Novel Crafter, but you're also using GPT-4. Are they
Yeah.
connected together like pseudo write? Is it all one program, or do you have an account with both? she's trying to learn how the program works. So I was explaining to her that you loaded your API keys, and that's why you're able to pick your different models.
Yes, so you can Novel Crafter, it's set up in this way to bring your own key so that you can, if you wanted to just use a local model to run it on your own computer and have it free, you can do that. Or if you wanted to use OpenAI or Claude or any of the systems, you can pick and choose which model you're actually using. So I have an OpenAI account where I've got all my fine-tuned models. And then I also have an Open Router account to get access to the kind of free models and the cheaper ones and just see how and play around with different things. I
So
in
are,
general.
so are there really 73 models available to you on Open Router? Yes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so you've got some of them are very similar. So you've got like Claude 2 and Claude 2.0. So Claude 2 is 2.1. You've got like all the like legacy models. You've got Google Gemini. You can access OpenAI through OpenRouter as well. I just choose to have it separate because of the fine-tuned models. But yeah, there's the Meta models. You've got Mistral, Weaver, which I know is a lot of people like. I don't know where that is. That Weaver, Mansa Weaver. I know a lot of people like that for not safe for work pros. So yeah, you can get access and OpenRouter are often add new models and you pay a hosting fee. I guess it's essentially you pay like a token amount that's often in the fractions of a penny or cent. And so yeah, you can explore. Some of them aren't meant for writing and you can tell that. But you can find some really nice little bits and bobs through it and get some good results.
Can you do that again really slowly? Can you show them where you clicked? Was it on settings to get
Yes.
to?
So in the if I open this up, if I open up my codex again. So in your normal view, if you go down to settings, you can see here there's the connected vendors. So you can choose to add to they've got, I think there's the 6 kind of different providers. So some are providers of the AI models through the cloud, or there's a couple that allow you to host yourself if you've got a quick enough computer. I've been trying, but I've got a tiny laptop and oh my God, is it so slow? It's no, I'm happy to pay to have it run at more than one token every 5 seconds. But it's yes, and then the space is adding a lot more kind of as time goes on. But to be honest, if you have an open router key, you can get anything that you can get most models that are out there that kind of people recommend.
So a question was posed. If I
Uh-huh.
understand correctly, I can ask questions and fine tune the character by inputting different information into the codex that will end up overriding the existing data. So that if I ask the same question again, I'd get a different adjusted answer from the character.
Mhm. Yes, so I would always recommend if you're going to do that to change the chat. I think that might have been an issue with this because she still sounded similar. So I'm going to try having an actually a I'll open a new chat. Just copy and paste that.
Now, am I understanding that the codex can impact the chat, but the chat does not impact the codex unless you pull in the information from the codex? I mean, from
Correct.
the chat. Okay.
Yeah, you can use it as it's a kind of like almost like a completely siloed entity. So you can take the things you actually want from there and put them in, but you do have to you have to do that changing first.
You have to do
Okay,
that
so
manually. Okay.
yeah, I'm just gonna check. Is there anything else that I want to just change before I?
So that means that you could take, say, you've gone through about 5 chapters and Red has had some growth. You could potentially go in, have a conversation with chat, find out how she has changed, and then go in and make changes to her codex so that
Yes,
you
I was
know what are changes maybe for chapters 6 through 9 or whatever it is. And then when she has another major change, you could do the same thing again and have a conversation.
Yeah, so something with that as well, you can, if you go on this little bit at the bottom, the context, you can put in the context of your entire novel or the outline. So just like your kind of scene summaries or a specific scene. And then you can use that and pull. So say if something, I don't know, something happens in chapter 5 that is key to the character's character arc, you could then be like, okay, so given that this happens and you've got the scene context, like in scene 5, how would Red's personality or kind of outlook on life change because of it?
Nice. Are there any other ones in the chat right now for Kate regarding the codex, the snippets, or even chat, or within the setting for the prompts? We'll give them a couple of minutes to respond.
Yeah. Okay, I
I
can
think
already
we have
see.
answered most of them. I
Amazing.
have one. You were talking about fine tuning, and in this case, we were fine tuning a character. Is that uh, novel crafter's way of fine tuning the LLM, or does it have a provision for actually doing the code to fine tune the model you're using? I know they've added that possibility with ChatGPT 3.5.
Yes. So we've been, so the fine tunes, like the specific kind of writing fine tunes that I've done with OpenAI and they're on my, I can use them within Novel Crafter. There isn't currently a kind of fine tuning the LLM within it. However, you can, through a lot of the prompts, tell the AI to look back on your text, maybe the last 2,000 words, 3,000 words, or something to get the context and get your writing style and carry it forward. So it tries to mimic that as much as we can at the moment. But yeah, ideally, you would be able to take all this and move it through. I can see
Oh,
already. Also, yeah.
I apologize. Are you able to show us one of the prompt so that people can see that you can actually go in and fine tune maybe the top P or the temperature or the token count?
So at this bottom bit here, you can go prompts. And there are different types of prompts that kind of nicely categorized. So you've got scene summarization. So that takes your scene that you've written and gives you a summary. If you're like a pantser and you don't know what your scene's going to be at the beginning, there's the text replacement prompts, which kind of, so I have this one, which is just my fine tuned model, temperature, and it's when given prose, copy my style, essentially. There's ones that you can shorten or lengthen, show, don't tell, or I have my prose generation prompt, which is, it gives a sentence to prime, gives some rules to try and take in the prose. And then you have your models. So yeah, you can, if you go on a model, you can duplicate it, delete it, and you can then change all the different parameters like you would in Playground. Yeah, and yeah, you can just, in some of them I've got a gazillion different of the same model where so that I do some live streams for the Novel Crafter YouTube channel, and we did a session where we just played around with the parameters on the same model, just seeing how changing the temperature or whatever kind of impacted the prose that came out. And it's a wormhole to go through, but it's really fun. And it gives you an idea of what is actually happening behind the hood.
Now, do you have those videos out on your channel
Uh,
that show some of that?
yes. So one sec, if I go, sorry, you're all seeing the screen, but there, if you go on, there's the YouTube channel. I've also put the Discord and the Novel Crafter website there. But yeah, so I host some live streams on there, doing different topics and stuff. And what, so there's one on prompting, one on beat generation, general novel crafter use, and yeah, just a bit of everything, just so that for anyone who has any questions that they need to, it's easier sometimes to show the answer rather than typing it down. But yeah, does anyone else have any questions, or is that
And again, if you are not as familiar with, say, the LLMs and you're not sure which ones to change, know that in Novel Crafter, they do have some defaults that you can use. And I actually generated something under the system default for the general purpose.
yeah?
And I actually generated a whole novel using the general purpose. And I just prompted it with what Kate was showing, how you can put your style, your genre guide in there. You can put your beats, you can generate your content. And again, there's more than one way to tackle any one system. I know that if I go into Pseudo Writer, Novel Crafter, or say Rexy, or any of the ones out there, Jasper, any of those, I might tackle it a little different than another person might. And that's okay. You just
Yeah.
have to find what works for you.
And I think that's the principle even with writing by hand. You have your pantsers, plotters, everyone uses the knowledge and the tools they've got differently. And it's no different with AI. It's just another way of doing things.
Now, we've played around with character development. So, what do you do whenever you are inside a novel crafter and maybe you know that your progression of your chapters are maybe a little bit too vague or ambiguous, and you know that you need to up the stakes for those specific scenes? How do you go about fleshing out additional side conflicts that help to
Okay.
feed the plot line?
Okay. So this is probably not the. We'll see how it works because this is a short story. It's probably not the best of examples. However, what I would do is go to full novel outline. So it would read the chapter, like if I go back onto plan, it'll read these synopses.
Okay.
So context, full novel outline.
Now, could you
But
ask it to give you suggestions of turning your short story into a novel or novella
let's
with
have a go.
additional twists, turns, and you might want to put twists, turns, and reversals. I know the LLMs understand that from
Okay.
so
Twist.
twists, turns, and reversals.
Be specific and imaginative. Anything else you want me to add on that?
Avoid vague or ambiguous wording and use action-based wording.
Right. Send.
Wow, there you go. It's letting you know
Yeah,
when
it's
it's story. Yeah. So any one of these that it's generating, you could then take and flesh out fully to be able to
yeah.
add if you wanted to expand your story from a short story into maybe a full-fledged body of work.
Yeah, for certain. Yeah, because like you can take any of these and I like how I'd envision this with like a bunch of like cautionary tales, but it would be so easy to take these different aspects and expand on them.
So
Although now
yes,
I'm thinking of the romantic entanglement, I'm like, oh my god, what if she falls in love with a huntsman?
it depends. How old is she? Um,
Oh no, she's 20.
oh, okay.
Yeah. No,
So
this is her like years later, like when she's
So, if
yeah.
somebody wanted to turn this into, say, a serialized body of work, which is what eGlobal looks at,
Yeah.
if I wanted this to be a serialized body of work, could you then turn around and ask it to give you maybe premises for season one, season two, and season three of a serialized body of work?
Yeah, let's give that a go. We'll add in the outline. I would like to take this story and How many episodes do you normally do in a series?
I like to have really long ones. So right now I have one that has 50 episodes per season, but then I really like to have the 100 plus episodes
Okay.
per season.
And a series would um please. So what was the thing? Please suggest like
So somebody suggested 100. So can we change the 50 to
yeah.
100?
Okay, so please suggest ways to expand
Mhm.
this. Uh,
So I like that you can just ask specific questions. Let's see.
okay, that was let's almost got moderated
AI,
then.
you never know where it's going to go. Sometimes it just has a little blip.
I know. So yeah, sometimes just like, nope, I don't want to do this. Wait, no, I do. And you're like, okay, thanks, AI.
Oh, there you go. So season arc
Sorry.
1, The Threat of Human.
Okay, yeah, pack dynamics and politics. You would expect there to be struggles for the different wolves having different opinions. Yeah, no, I could.
So I think the key word here is always going to be prompting. It's how you prompt the
Yeah.
LLM, whether you are in Novel Crafter, ChatGPT, Open Router, OpenAI, Jasper, Claude, any of them. It comes down to having a conversation with the LLM.
Yeah. I think giving it because I think someone I can't remember who it was, but someone said if you put trash in, you get trash out. Like it reflects
Yes.
the quality of what you put in. So you need to give it enough information. I think explaining something to an LLM is actually a great way of knowing if you have explained something correctly because it can't misinterpret what you're saying. If you tell it something, it assumes that what you've said is law. So if it gets something wrong in response, okay, I've not explained it clearly enough.
Yeah. So scroll back up just a little bit.
Yeah.
I liked the section there where it talks about number 5, right there under expanding the episodes, the Monster of the Week format. And that's actually a really good one whenever I'm working with, say, shifters or, say, monster romances or other themed with Fae and stuff. Having that Monster of the Week format for my episodic bodies. I tend to like to do that because whenever I'm flowing and maybe 5 episodes might encounter something specific, I can continue that thread until I reach a resolution and then a new monster of the week shows up.
Yeah, I guess it keeps
Cool.
that kind of almost each episode is if you have like little mini kind of story arcs and then because I guess like when you're writing as well, what you can show on TV in 45 minutes takes a lot longer to write and to explore. So
Yeah.
it's like you almost have 5 episodes for one episode in a TV show.
I know that whenever I took a novel that Cece and I were playing with inside a pseudo write, I actually found that I could take 3 chapters my long novel and flip those into episodes for television pilot. And I ended up with like 12 episodes for a television
Fun.
show by flipping the content that I already had in beats from my novel straight into a television script, which was really cool because then I had the 12 episodes for that season, which was cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing what AI can do for you.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of doing it like that. I think that's a
Mhm.
really nice idea. And yeah, I guess because like I've been writing or I've been phrasing these as like mini short stories, but it also could be given that the short story in quotation marks is now getting to over 10,000 words. it feels more like an episode.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, are there any other questions inside of the chat? Let's see. Would be interesting to learn and watch how you convert the script. Maybe I'll drag Lynn and Miss Kate here, and we'll play with that sometime
Yeah.
on video. Because
Yeah.
I haven't written script inside a novel crafter yet. I've done it in multiple other platforms, so it'd be interesting to see how novel crafter does that.
Would be fun.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can ask. I think there is a couple of people in the community that have done some kind of script work. So I could have a little ask around and see what people have done and if they've got custom prompts and stuff that they've used, or we can see how the default stuff works.
Yeah. I have custom prompts for scripting, so I'd be curious
Oh
to
yeah.
see how those do inside of Novel Crafter. Because I've used them in Jasper. I've used them, by the way, ChatGPT 4 does phenomenal when it comes to scripts.
Oh,
Jasper does pretty good. It's better at
okay.
evaluating, but yeah, even Pseudo Write Story Bible does scripts for me. So again, it just comes down to prompting.
Brilliant. Well then yeah, we should definitely explore with that. I'd love to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are there other aspects that y'all wanted her to maybe flesh out in this season that that chat spit out for her? I know that to flesh it out to a full-fledged story with story beats would take quite a while, and it's not something that we've set up to do today, but maybe at a future time, Kate and I and Lynn could get together and we could finish fleshing out something if that is something that y'all might be interested in seeing on a video. Again, this is all about sharing the knowledge and pushing that information forward so that other people can pick up the ball and start running with it. And yes, we're seeing yes, please.
Getting
So,
lots of yeses.
so they want to know what Red's going to do.
This short story, so I had a couple plans. This one that I'd been working on was there was the miners. So yeah, she leads the wolves on like the patrol, and encounters the miners, and she like tries to warn them, and she isolates a miner and tries to communicate, but it doesn't go well. And then she goes and she's trying to work out a way to get these miners to leave, despite the difficulty she's having in doing that. And she gets these rituals from her grandmother, who's still alive and is just hiding away in her house and loving life. And yeah, she goes and basically the forest like rises up and it's like some kind of horror action sequence of vines coming out and stealing all the weapons and tripping people up, and probably a bit more gory as well, but I've not got to that bit yet.
Nice.
But yeah, she becomes this like protector of the woods. I envisioned that each of the short stories was like new threats coming. So like either you probably have like deforestation and different things, and how she deals with it. And then there's one of like the traditional like group of teenagers go into the woods smoking and drinking and generally disrespecting things, and then everything goes a bit chaotic. And yeah, it's like a little vibes like that is what I'd envisioned when I started work on this.
Nice. I could definitely see you playing around with this. Now, are there other areas that you would like to show us today inside a novel crafter?
Uh, I think this is a good point to pause, 'cause I think if I was to start showing new things, I'd then go into a big rabbit hole of everything. Yeah, it's because I do 2-hour live streams and stuff, and it's you just go in and then it's suddenly like 40 minutes later, you're like, oh, so what was that question that was asked actually? Have I answered it?
It's like, have I answered everything?
Yeah.
So I do feel that this is probably a good stopping point.
Yeah.
And if people have questions, and if you find us on the AIWC, which is AI Writer Connection Discord, we're happy to answer questions there. And Gayleen, is there an area within eGlobal that some of the people who may not be part of eGlobal might be able to come in and ask questions?
We don't at this moment. We have our team. So if you're one of our writers and you're on Teams, then that's a great place to ask questions. Otherwise, you could email me, gaylene.lamson@eGlobalCreativePublishing.com. And if you have some questions, I'm happy to answer them or direct you to someone who can.
Would you mind putting that into the chat so that people
Yeah,
could grab that?
absolutely.
Kate, I really want to thank you for a wonderful demonstration. I know that there was a lot of information covered. Novel Crafter, they're constantly changing it, putting in new information for authors to be able to garner and help flesh out their stories. I know that we've answered a lot of questions today, but if you have any specific questions on any of the content that we covered today, or any insights or ideas that you would like to see eGlobal Creative use for sessions in the future, or things that you'd like to see on AIWC or even on Kate's channel, let us know. And we're always open to ideas of things that you may be interested in as an audience, because again, the goal here is to spread the knowledge. So, what's on your mind? Any thoughts, questions?
Oh, so to Narrator Forever, who was asking about videos for new stuff from Novel Crafter, there will be a live session not this weekend, but the weekend after, just to allow some time for new features to come through. But the videos, the live streams are probably the most contemporaneous guides for what's currently there. But yeah, in 2 weeks' time, we're going to have a session actually going over the new stuff.
So, is that something that you could put inside of the AIWC event channel, or are you
Yeah,
going
of
to
course.
pre-schedule? Yeah, we would love for
Yeah,
you to
that's
do
good.
that.
Yeah, so it's on. So it's definitely going to be the Saturday after next at 3 p.m. GMT time, which I think is 2 hours before this started.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll let you know when we've got the stream set up. It's just on YouTube, so anyone can access it
Okay,
and stuff.
perfect.
But I can get a link and give it you and everything when it's all loaded up.
Are there any other questions in the chat section, Lynn? And if you're talking, you're muted.
Thank you. I did that. Just how do they learn about the live streams?
So if you go on the YouTube channel, you can access it there. However, you can also on the Discord, we let everyone know, and we usually post in the other Discord groups in the AI Writers Connective on the Novel Crafter page. Usually someone's there, the live stream's starting.
And we'll make sure that the announcement goes through the AIWC channel as well, so that we have that on Discord. That way we can make the announcement there. Are there
Oh,
any other
amazing.
questions?
Not in the chat.
Perfect. So
I
let's
do have one.
recap.
I see one from Ash
Oh, go ahead.
here, asking, I'd like to start to finish and creating a story with pseudo and
I
chat
think she's talking to me.
Oh, okay.
I'm doing a series class this week.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, when is your series class, Lynn?
It's at 4 p.m. Pacific. It started yesterday and it'll go through Friday.
Now, will there be recordings of those that people can access?
There certainly will.
Okay. I'll be sure to put links to those in the YouTube channel for this specific video. That way, if people are interested, they can go out and take a look and be able to access that information as well. Again, we're all about sharing that information.
And this is done through pseudo-write. I will be demonstrating pseudo-write mostly. I've also been using some other tools as well.
Okay. Lynn does a lot of work inside of pseudo-write and a few other areas as well. And she also does art in Midjourney. And then I know Kate is primarily using Novel Crafter right now. And I just could bounce around everywhere. Do we have any other questions?
Yes. But there's a question to you that I think went privately to me. Mira Gold, are you going to do a session on finishing Emma's story?
Yes, actually, Emma's story is going to actually have some live Zoom where people can watch me go through the process of doing some of the editing, because that's been something that a lot of people have been direct messaging me about, the editing process and actually wanting to see how I move or flow through the editing. So that is something that I am considering doing some live Zooms on so that people can attend, but then I'll also load the videos up. So that is something that will be kicking off either the end of this week or next week, but I will go ahead and post times for those because I'll pick a specific day and then do that a couple of times a week until I am through that whole body of work. Any other questions?
Don't see any in chat.
Okay, then I'm going to go over the recap a little bit. And what we've covered, we actually dived into the essentials of character and plot development and understanding how to create those multidimensional characters and engaging plots. We uncovered how we can actually use the chat function within Novel Crafter to be able to go back and forth with our character. We can interview a character there. We can see how the character thinks. We can toss our character into different situations that will enhance the plot progression and help to develop our characters. We also explored the exciting role of using AI in this creative writing process. Again, you are the author, and the AI is the tool that you wield. So find what works for you. If you enjoy plotting from scratch on paper, plot that way. If you enjoy the organization of AI, find what works for you. Also, reflecting on our interactive exercises today, I hope that you found that the AI tools not only were insightful, but also inspiring, that they open up new avenues for the creative expression. I like the fact that there's so many different facets that we can use when we're working with AI and looking at Novel Crafter and how it has the codex and it has the little snippet area where you can put content in there and be able to look at it at a quick glance. These tools are being designed again as a resource for authors. So be sure that you're taking advantage of the full impact of the tool. Don't be bashful, ask questions, get into the discords. And again, there's so many people that are so friendly in the communities. Again, don't hesitate to ask questions. And remember, the key takeaway from today is not just about using AI, but also about reinforcing your creative and critical thinking skills. As you continue your journey in storytelling, we want to encourage you to keep experimenting with these ideas and tools and to keep writing, keep creating, and let your imagination soar. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Gayleen.
Before you do that, I just put the PDF of the slide presentation in the chat so people will have
Perfect.
it.
All right. Thank you so much. This was a fun session. Kate, thank you so much for coming on and helping us out and showing us your expertise. We really appreciate you taking the time for that.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And as always, Mira Gold and Lynn, thank you so much for all the work you do on these presentations. We're getting a lot of good responses on this, and everybody loves to attend. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And we'll have the link up for next week's session. As soon as we can get it up by this Friday, we'll have the link ready. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.